I'm
Oh,
like,
we're going live when Jamie McLeod Skinner's going live too, apparently.
oh, oh, that's right. Today is Tuesday, huh? Whoops. Whoops.
Well, we can't. Oliver? No.
We'll see
It's
who
fine.
gets more views.
Oh, God.
Okay. All right. So we're live, I think. It's live. Just checking in everything. Yeah, it worked. It
Awesome.
worked.
Thanks
All
for
right.
hosting this,
So
Miriam.
yeah, no, thank you. I think it's really important that we three get together and talk since we can't do it in person. What other better way? Zoom. Um, so my name is Miriam Cummins. I am running for state representative for House District 15. And I wanted to kind of get us together and talk about some things about our district. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Oh, yes. Well, I
Rock,
am
paper,
Paige Hook.
scissors.
Yeah, right. That's how I love to decide things, Um, my name is Paige Hook, and I am a candidate for House District 17 state representative. And I'm also a city councilor here in Staten, Oregon, and mama three of beautiful children. And also just really excited to be in the same virtual space as both of you guys since we are in contiguous House districts.
Yeah. And I'm Marty Wilthy. I am a representative from House District 11, which is the southwestern parts of Lynn County, including Harrisburg, Halsey, Brownsville, Crawfordsville, Sodaville, outskirts of Lebanon, and outskirts of Sweet Home, Crawfordsville. I am, in my other job, I'm a dad, and I am a colonel in the Air National Guard. So I'm actually assigned down at Air Force Special Operations Command. So I've been in office since, I won in 2018 for the first time. So just under 2 years.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Marty, for joining us. Again, I'm Miriam Cummins. I'm hosting this little get together. Um, the House District 15 encompasses Albany, North Albany, Millersburg, and Tangents. For those of you that do not know, we're pretty, we're getting bigger. It's fun to see our district grow. So some of the things that I wanted to ask and that we can all answer to that I've heard from people ask us is what are some challenges that you see facing your district? So Marty, why don't I start with you? What are some challenges that you see?
Well, when I joined the Army 26 years ago, one of the first things they taught me is that you never leave anyone behind. And that's been sort of the ethic that's motivated my service ever since. Right now, I'm very concerned about COVID-19 and the fires and rebuilding from them. The education, building the schools that we need, and making sure that people can get career and training in college that they want without excessive cost. Right now, we've said we were going to fund need-based student financial aid for the past 13 years or so, but we never actually have. And so 2/3 of college students are actually not getting the need-based financial aid and that they need. And that concerns me. I grew up poor and got through on public assistance and got through public school and decided I was going to pay it forward. And it's really important to me. And I think it's important to the American dream that people be able to do that. Healthcare, COVID-19, we were able to keep 1 million of our low-income brothers and sisters on health insurance. We have to get everybody through COVID, and that means keeping them insured and making sure it's affordable for everyone, because there's a lot of folks who aren't on OHP who can't afford to use the insurance that they can get. Housing, rebuilding burned housing, building the housing of the future, and getting folks off the streets. It was really disturbing to me that the best we could do in the worst of the smoke down in Eugene was 15 beds for people who were living on the street, which was just a huge moral failure from my perspective. For me, I think that the district, it's about the American dream. It's the opportunity for anyone to overcome hardship to achieve success, and making sure that kids today have the same opportunities I did.
Oh, I love that. And a little bit about me also with what you said, Marty, is it's about the American dream. My family immigrated here to the United States because we wanted to be part of the American dream. And I think it's so important that, that we don't lose track of that, of what our ancestors did or what your own family did to, when they came to this country. And so for me, it's just really, I take it to heart, because a lot of the things that I'm doing it because either I'm the first generation that has ever done this, especially in my family, to even run for office. It was nobody ever, they're like, no. And so for me, this is really important that we keep the American dream alive. Thank you for addressing that, because I think it's important. That's what we represent and what we're here for. Paige, what are some challenges?
Oh gosh. What's so interesting about the areas that Representative Marty Wilthy does actually represent right now, and the seats that we're running for, is we share a lot of the same struggles. And it's because the demographics are fairly similar in our districts. I would have to agree that a lot of what Representative Wilthy has already discussed is true for my district as well. But I think because the wildfires hit our Santiam Canyon so hard, that is probably one of the highest priorities right now, is rebuilding that area, because we have, I think it's hundreds of homes. I believe it's around 470 homes that were actually fully destroyed, where there's just no chance of even rebuilding them, because they're literally rubble. I know that it's going to take years to do that. It's not going to be like next year everything's going to be fine again. This is going to take a long time, working with the state, the counties, the local municipal governing boards or governing bodies that they have as well. And I know that is already starting to take place. Everyone's kind of coming together, and it's really beautiful to see, actually, because there isn't a lot of the partisan politics at play right now. And I know that it won't be that way forever, but we're going to roll with it while we have it. And it is really beautiful to see. But COVID-19 is also another huge issue. And I know that you're fully aware of that too, Miriam, because we, as moms of young kids, we're feeling the effects of what it's like to have to figure out how to do what we need to do during our day, with work requirements, looking for jobs, things like, because you also have to focus on that. I know that you've been hit hard by the COVID-19 economic downfall, because you lost your job during that time. And so you've had to go through the struggles of unemployment, which a lot of the people in my district have also had to go through as well. And it hasn't been easy. I've gotten a lot of messages from people. I've been in contact with those same people throughout this to ask, how is that going? What is that process like now versus at the beginning? Have you gotten your payments? And, we're one of the only states, I think we might be the only state now that has not given the money for the waiting week. And I know that's coming, is what I'm hearing. It's coming, but it's not here yet. And I don't think that message has been pushed out enough to let people know, yes, you will be getting that waiting week period payment. I think it's coming in November. Is that right, Rep Wildy, or December? I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. But yeah, COVID-19 is huge, not just because of the actual illness itself, but what it's done to our already struggling rural communities. We already had businesses that were struggling out here as it was. Then you add COVID-19 and then the wildfires, and we just can't really take any more hits to our businesses at this point. And I know that just this, schooling, like I said, it's really tough on parents, especially of young kids. And Miriam and I don't know if you know this, Rep Wildy, but we're trying to work on a legislative concept. Well, we have worked on a legislative concept that we'd love to see, get pushed forward, since COVID-19 isn't really going anywhere yet. Of finding some type of protection for parents of young children, since we are required by law to care for them, of course, when they're young. We don't have the luxury of saying to our 6-year-old, hey, mom's got to go to work, go ahead and do your schooling here at the table, like you can with a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old. So just finding, these are some of the few struggles that we have, but there's so many other struggles that come along with COVID-19 and what's brought. So those are two of the main things. There are so many other things that, like what Rep. Wilthy hit on.
Yeah.
But I think that what we need to focus on is the now, and get people relief right now. I think it's really
Yeah.
tragic to see at the federal level that there's even a discussion of not doing a relief package, and it having to do with anything with the election. It's like, are we
Yeah.
just chess pieces? Because that's gross.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things that people here, I'm seeing it in my district too, unemployment. It's so hard for me to find a job. You know, and trying to also teach my kids virtually. And then you add, you know, if I do find a job, who's going to take care of my kids? Who's going to teach my kids? Who's going to be there? I have a child with special needs. So you know, that requires different type of, okay, the person that's going to take care of him, you know, who I find, they have to know all of these, and he has an IEP. I mean, there's so many stressors that I'm going through that I'm also seeing it through other families here in the district. And I think that is something very important that we need to address, that as parents are being impacted by COVID tremendously, because like myself, I lost my job and then waiting for unemployment, you know, like it took a while for me to get finally mine. And I was feeling it. I was to a point where, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to skip a payment. I mean, in my finances, because I need to drive, but at the same time, I at least I had that option. And so that to me was, we had to, and running a campaign at the same time, it's like things just got so much and so chaotic all at the same time that, you know, I tell myself, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. I mean, look at us. There's so many things that have happened, you know, so that's some of the things that I'm seeing here in my district is unemployment benefits. Some people are still waiting. And then, you know, what can people do after their 13 weeks, you know, their unemployment is done? What comes after? There's an extension, but, you know, what is the process on that? You know, so there's a lot of things that when it comes to unemployment, that a lot of people are not aware, that I'm trying to be as proactive and letting them know, okay, this is what you can do after you are done with your you know, your initial claim of unemployment. You can extend it up to December 26th, but you know, there's that certification process that comes with that. So I'm doing that. And then with education, seeing how our families and our teachers right now, we're trying to do virtual learning, you know, and just partnering with community organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, all of them, to help parents have a place where their child can go so they can go to work. But yet from what I'm seeing, because my kids are currently going to the Boys and Girls Club to help me, you know, to look for a job, to run a campaign, to do all those things that I'm not able to do with them. And what I've heard is they need more resources. They're open, but they need more resources when it comes to training, when it comes to ensuring that, you know, the district is aware of what they need. So it just really seeing all of those, I think, and hearing from parents what is going on here. I mean, and everything that you guys touched on, it's, you know, Albany, Millersburg, and Tangent didn't get hit directly by the wildfires, but we were welcoming people into the fairgrounds and giving them a place to stay. But, you know, I think right now we are all seeing the effects of what is happening with our families due to COVID. And we just need to find a solution that we can help our families. I mean, like you said, it's so hard in the federal level right now to even get an answer, but we could at least, you know, do our part and help our fellow Oregonians and moving forward and
Miriam,
being
I think that
uplifted.
it's awesome how what you're saying and what we kind of talked about rolls right into that next question that you sent to us, that about what we can bring to our district.
Yes.
And I'm hearing it in both of your guys' answers. You know, I'm hearing, you know, that, you know, Representative Marty Wilthy, not only does he have experience right now that we need, we need these rural Dems that have the experience to also kind of help guide us as we come into these positions as well. But you know, his experience in the military, you know, being able to speak on behalf of those types of voices, and you know, his background of growing up from, you know, almost nothing, and finding his way through those systems, and then your experience of having to navigate these real life hard times through COVID-19, of unemployment process, and schooling your kids from home, and having a special needs child. I mean, all of these things, and then add on top of that, you know, your Latinx heritage, where you also bring that voice forward for all of Oregon. So I love that that was the very next question. I just wanted to put that out there, that this is what I see. But what do you guys see that you bring forward? Start with Miriam, maybe.
I'm really honored to be in this company, because I don't know two harder working people, and you and Paige. You know, in terms of, to me, it's really about hard work. You know, I've knocked on 11,500 doors myself in the first campaign. The campaign did 30,000. We did 30 town halls before we had to stop doing town halls. Even after the first session, I knocked on 2,100 more doors between sessions before COVID hit. And then since, we've made 100,000 calls. And, you know, I don't think you'll find dedication like that. And I know you've all done similar things. I'm always getting asked by Miriam and Paige, you know, hey, there's this event for Lynn County folks, let's do it. You know, experience, you know, Miriam on the school board, Paige as a city councilor and working in the legislature. For me, I've been 26 years of military and public service, from firefighting near Oak Ridge to being a deputy DA in Albany to serving in Afghanistan and the Middle East to the legislature. And then, you know, values that mirror our districts. And I think we all believe in the American dream, and not just for the privileged few, leaving no one behind, and making sure that no one suffers from discrimination. I see that, and certainly in you too. And I hope I live up to your example.
No, I mean, and I love that you said that, Marty, because to tell the truth, you were one of the first people that, you know, when I became unemployed, that I reached out to, because I tried reaching out to my state rep here in my district, the incumbent, and I could not get an answer at all. So I was like, Marty, I don't know what to do. And you, even though I'm not in your district, you went out of like your way, your staff did, which they're amazing. And they helped me, you know, through the process, and reassuring me, okay, you know, it's gonna come. And that to me speaks volumes to what, you know, you're willing to help someone that is not even in your district, because you saw the need, and you saw that, you know, like you said, nobody gets left behind. And I just love that, and I appreciate that from what you and your staff did. I really do, because I was in a moment of frantic during that time, because I didn't know what was gonna happen. And so for that, I that's why it, like, for me, is I'm so happy that that you're running for re-election, because we do need you, you know, and everything that you have brought. That to me just speaks volumes to what we, all three of us, can do. If we all win, we're gonna be like the super, I want to say like the Avengers, okay? Because I'm a nerd. All right, you know, like we're gonna start with our own rebel, like Avengers, and I feel like that's why we get along so well, I think, because we care about each other, and we care about what's going on in our lives, and we try to do what's best for other people, and not about what's best for ourselves.
We care about our greater community, not just, you know, where your voting line ends. You know, it's the entire community. And I see that in a lot of the rural candidates this year, that we're kind of all caring about each other and each other's districts. And I'd love to see that expand even farther into some type of a liaison program that stops leaving voters behind when their representative just won't do their job. You know, and I know that not everyone can take on a bunch more constituents, but you know, where if you've reached out to your representative and they're not responding, and I am just truly shocked that you have not heard back from your representative that is not from the same party as me. Their staff reached out to me when I contacted them about our family court system, and having issues with that. And so, you know, I just, it's very shocking to me that that wouldn't happen. But having some type of a liaison program so that people aren't feeling left behind, so that we don't have people thinking that the government doesn't care and things like that, because that's really what blows up some of these controversial bills out of just out of the water. It's them not feeling like they're heard, that you know, that they aren't considered, that they don't have someone they can reach out to. So, you know, if your representative isn't responding, it would be cool to have some type of a liaison program that says, you know what, if you've tried, you haven't gotten a response in this much time, here's someone else that you could contact.
Yeah. And that's also where accountability comes in too, right? And I think that's something important that we, as you know, constituents, people that live in this district that have a, you know, a state representative that's not doing their job, to hold them accountable. Because, you know, that's what I would want people to do with me, is hold me accountable if I'm doing something or not doing something. Please, you know, that's your job for me to hold me accountable. And I think that's very important, that we need to have, I think, people feel that they're being heard, because right now it feels like that communication is so wide that they don't even know where to start. And so we need to make it easier for people to reach out and make it more accessible, because that's what we are. We have to be accessible. And the fact that if you can't give someone 20 minutes of your day because they're having an issue financially, or what, you know, something's going on in their life and they want to meet with you, and you don't give them time, what does that say? You know, it's so important to be accessible. And that's what I love about Marty. Like, you made time, and I appreciate that very much, because again, I wasn't getting that.
Well, I think, I mean, one of the things I like about this group we're in here is that, you know, we're all committed to public service. You know, we're not in it for ourselves, or in it for you. Our campaigns are not funded by big business. I mean, we're all working with individual donors. I mean, I think of Paige, the other primary in Paige's race, you know, 80% of the funding for her opponent came from one major polluter in the district.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it came from, I mean,
right?
It's on Orstar. It's on Orstar. I mean, it came from a CEO of one of the biggest companies in our district, $50,000.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Well, then the clean campaigns that we've been running, you know, that are you know, our honesty, commitment to telling the truth in our ads, and you know, frankly, just the commitment to the oath we take. Something I don't think any of our opponents have promised is that they won't walk out. But you know, for me, you know, the oath for legislator is much the same as the one you do when you join the military, and the thought it gets inconvenient, so you're going to leave. You know, your major donor doesn't like a bill, so you're going to blow up the process. I mean, that's not something we believe in. We believe in putting people first, and so I'm glad we're all running.
Yeah, I think that's also a benefit, and what does set us apart from our opponents too is, leads into that next question of what sets us apart from our opponents. One thing that sets all of us apart from our opponents is we have a seat at the table where the decisions are being made. And I think that is the best strategy right now for every single rural district right now. You know, we've got to have that seat at that decision-making table, and Republicans just don't have that because they don't have the majority right now. That doesn't mean that that each of our districts should be left out of the conversation. And getting that early input that before a bill is drafted is extremely important, because I know how a human brain works. You know, we think we have a great idea and we latch on to it, even if we haven't considered all of the perspectives. And, you know, it's just human nature. It's human error. And sometimes you can whittle away at that and get another good idea put in there, or maybe even 120 of them, but still you're missing even more perspectives when you do that.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, all of us have experience in some government entity. Okay. Paige, you're a city councilor. I'm a school board member that I got elected. Marty, you're a current state representative. We all have experience in when it comes to policy making or implementing or creating. Okay. Because it's almost the same process. It's just our fields are different. And I think that's one thing when someone says we don't have experience, when really we do. It's just different, but we can still bring those skills forward and help our district, because we bring a different perspective. And so I think for us is, yeah, we don't have experience in the legislature, but a lot of the new people don't. And that's why they're running. That's why they want to be involved. But at the same time, at least we have the experience of running a previous campaign, implementing policies, getting together with our constituents and people. You know, I mean, for me, education, Paige, city, Marty, state. I mean, it's like, how much better can you get? This is like the dream team here. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It's like education, city, state. It's like, what?
Yeah. Plus, I've got experience as an actual staff member in the Oregon legislature, where I have made a lot of connections with all areas of the legislature, from my experience when I worked down in the basement on the construction project to up on in the legislative assembly. And so, I'm a person that I like to share that too. So, I'm going to be right there with you, Miriam, saying, okay, this is where you go for this, and this is where you go for that.
Yeah.
All, Representative Wilthy already knows how to hit the ground running, because he's already a representative, and he's already been through that initial learning phase of how to legislate, and he still rocked it even in his initial time. But we'll be able to hit the ground running as well, whereas I just don't see how my opponent especially would be able to do that. I also did want to, at least, I don't want to like linger on this too long, but I do want to highlight the fact that I did notice in one of our endorsement, one of the endorsement processes, that the reason that they said they didn't endorse you, Miriam, is because you don't have experience. But that's not true, and B, compared to the other people that were endorsed, our opponents, Representative Wilthy, those people have no experience, and so it didn't really make sense to me. So I did want to at least highlight that and let you know, Miriam, that I see you, and I see that you do have experience, and that was unfair as a reason to not endorse you. Let's call a spade and say that what they wanted to do was endorse Republicans, and that's okay. So I don't want to linger on it, because I am very grateful for the coverage anyway. I'm always grateful to the journalists that work really hard out there, but I did want to at least highlight that.
No, and I think that's why I just wanted to say, we all things that we hear and we see, and it's like, well, we each have different experiences. It would be the same thing as applying to a job, which, believe me, I'm like, I can tell you, I'm a pro now when it comes to filling those applications. So it's like saying, okay, what skills can you bring? Well, I bring different skills. Paige, you bring different skills. Marty, you bring different skills, but at the same time, we can do the job because we're determined and we're passionate about it, and because we want to help. And I think that's what's really gonna make us successful when we do win. Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, no, my head is set. I'm putting in 110%. We're grassroots. We're not getting money from big corporations. All the money that we receive is from the people that believe in us and that support us. And that's what's making me go. And really, that's something that I just want to make sure we mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that's something our opponents all share, is they're trying to sell this bill of goods to people that you can't be prosperous without polluting the environment, that the only way for rural communities to prosper is if they let major polluters come in and poison their communities. And we saw that they were willing to walk out to behind that principle. And I just say this new crop is the same as the old one, defending polluting industries. They're really fighting for the right to pollute our environment and never pay a price. And that's whereas there's so much that we could have done had they not walked out. There were 50,000 jobs at SIGs, youth jobs in the woods, jobs in the mills, green energy jobs. There were all kinds of ones. There was fire prevention that we were working on. Polluters paying to reduce fuel loads in the woods, to move to more sustainable forestry that takes more jobs for people. In essence, preserving the environment for our children and grandchildren. But it's not about, for them, it's not about the workers. It's not about the jobs. It's about the corporations that pay into their campaigns. And so that's been the real disappointment for me. The interview, they really were fixated on that. And I was like, look, this is a job builder for my community. This is one where there will be more jobs in the woods, and more jobs in our communities. But I just, it just drives me a little crazy. I can talk till I'm blue in the face with a Halsey Mill about the ways that we can use green energy to replace their natural gas with hydrogen, and still save them money over the long term. And they're just unwilling to do it. They're just unwilling to look beyond the immediate day. And I want to do things exactly the way that I've always done them, even though I know it's terrible for the environment. Instead of saying, yeah, we can get there. We can get there in 20 years, and let's work to that goal, because it's important for our families to be able to continue in this beautiful state and have it support them like it has us. So
yeah, I think that so to be clear, we're on the topic here now of the cap and trade bill, which has been very controversial in our state, and especially I know for me in my district. And I think a lot of the issue for what I'm hearing from constituents is it was a lot about the way we talked about it probably could have been better messaged, and also including our voices, because I don't know if you know this, Representative Wilthy, but I called one of the sponsors of the bill, their office, and I asked them, hey, so when did you guys come out to our area? And they didn't. They just didn't. And the only way that they advertised it was over the internet. And we know how great our internet access is in a lot of the areas of our district, non-existent in some areas. Plus you have the financial barrier as well. And, as a local city councilor, I would have been glad to push out a message to my constituents, and even try and connect with some of the counselors up the canyon and do some of that footwork for the representatives, had I known that this message needed to get out, and there was a message crafted that said, hey, we're going to do a town hall, or hey, there is this town hall, even if it was just in Salem and Springfield. We just never got that opportunity. So it left a lot of us in the dark, I think is what it is.
And honestly, we don't always do a good job of front loading the benefits for people. I mean, one of the things we really could have done, the state has reserves, right? And so the point is, if we know that money is coming in, we can front load some of the benefits for the communities that'll be impacted. So rather than wait, we can spend the money up front and say, hey, we are actually going to pay for more jobs in the woods today. And then, yes, in time, we're going to recoup that money from polluters. But we know it's coming, so we can do it. And then we kind of lead things, and we get people the jobs they need, and we start the communities moving in the right direction. But
I think that's an extremely good point, because I'll tell you, people don't trust our government. And unless you put your money where your mouth is right away, they're not going to believe you that it's going to come later. So we have, I think that is a great solution maybe for some types of bills that we want to pass in the future is, let's show them that we actually mean that we're going to help them, and do that first. And then, like you said, we can recoup the money later.
No, and I think that's also very important, because my opponent, the incumbent, was part of the walkout. So when people ask me about this, the cap and trade, I tell them, yes, I understand that we weren't, part of the conversation. We weren't at the table. One, because when you walk out, you can't have your voice be heard and represent your district. So we didn't even have our voices there because the person wasn't there to represent us and to fight for us. And so that to me was but also I do feel that they should have done a better job in reaching out to rural communities about how it was going to be impacted, how it was going to be implemented, how it was going to bring in so many benefits. But instead they didn't. And I think that's something that created a lot of those organizations that we see right now that are fueled by that because of, we didn't want it, so we're going to create this entity and we're going to fight it. And then, of course, they did the walkout. So that to me, it just makes me feel that we got to do our part. as future, as legislators and as, elected officials, that we are there for our people to represent, no matter if it's a bill that you like or not. If you're not there, you can't voice our concerns. I mean,
Right.
that's really how it is. It's, you gotta be there, because otherwise you're telling us that our voices doesn't matter, and that's why you're not gonna be there.
Well, yeah,
And-
Miriam, your opponent walked out. My opponent has said that they will walk out or would have walked out. And I want to be clear, like, as the bill stood, I would have been a
Mhm.
no vote based on the mere fact that none of my district was even consulted on it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I know what our current legislator is like with their outreach. Pretty much non-existent.
Yeah.
And so we're one of those districts that for a decade, we have been sort of in the dark of what's
Mhm.
going on at the legislature, other than an occasional near election time mailer that comes out.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's about where it is. So
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's the same thing that people ask me. It's like, if I was you in that place, what would you vote on it? And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm someone that likes to see all the information, all the data, everything, because I love to read the slightest detail. And then I would also consult my district. But when the legislature doesn't do their part in reaching out to our district so we can be heard, or making it hard where there's only 3 locations you can go to testify, that makes it hard, because a lot of people live far away and they can't make it. So for me, when people ask me, I would have voted no against it, but at least I would have showed up. I would have showed up,
yeah.
and I would have been there and be like, no, it's a no for me and for my district. But I
And we
would
would have
be
been
there.
in there early in the
Yep.
conversations too. And you know, if something like this comes up again, and there's going to always be bills, it'll be a different bill, a different
Mhm.
topic. It could be the same topic. You know, we would be in the room able to have these conversations
Yeah.
early, so it never even gets to this point.
You know, what kills me is it's not just that they walked out, but then they collected their pay too. You
Right.
know, I was like,
That really bothers me. Yeah.
there are
I'm like,
times I would resign rather than show up. You know, if they were going
Yeah.
to start repealing human rights for, for LGBTQ people, I mean, there are times where, yeah, but I would never go and continue to take back and then, pay my expenses with campaign donations. from
That's the
my
other
brothers.
part.
I was like,
That was like, what? You're using money that the people gave you for your own benefit because you don't want to show up and do your job. You know what would happen if we did that in an actual job? We would get fired. Okay, that's what would happen. You're
well,
fired.
hopefully that's what happens in this election for you,
Right.
Miriam, as your opponent hopefully gets fired.
Hey, you want to chat a little? One of the things I've been hearing a lot about is the difficulties with school and childcare and stuff.
Yes.
So,
Oh my goodness. Yes.
it is rough for so many people out there. And I guess I just want to start by acknowledging that, both of you. I have kids at home as well. Unfortunately, my wife works part-time, so it's been a little better. And my mom's been able to help as well. But, it's really been rough for so many people. And you'd asked about, getting back to school. One of the things I think we realized is that, the governor's criteria for reopening schools were probably, they should probably set the levels too low in terms of, the disease load in the community. And so I think they are in the process of adjusting that. Unfortunately, we're also in the middle of a big surge. And so, getting back really depends on getting better. And I think they'll fix those numbers. And as we drive the virus load down, we'll see better. I think it's really important to me that we prioritize those kids and those families that are most in need. I think we know who's not doing well in school. The teachers certainly know who's not doing well in school. And I think, as we probably won't be able to send everybody back at the same time, but as we start letting more kids back, it's important that the kids who are struggling the most get the most services. Those kids who do have IEPs, those kids who are at most risk of falling behind. And then, there's a decent chance that by the end of the school year, we'd be able to get everybody back. And I think it's really important to me that we do that if we're able to, that we can't just say, well, we're doing better and everybody's vaccinated in April. There's only 2 months left. I'm like, it's really important for those kids to get back.
Yes.
if we can at all.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think, protecting families and making sure we have the childcare available
Yes.
to them so they can continue to work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been
Yeah.
focusing on. I think there's also one of the things that drives me a little crazy is the other side keeps saying, well, we need to open these online charters. I said, well, look, every school district in my district has an online option, right?
Yep.
And the advantage of those online options internally is they keep all of the money in the community, right?
Yep.
They have access to the special ed teachers. And as the schools are able to reopen, those kids will be able to reintegrate into their classrooms. Whereas these online charters, they have terrible graduation rates,
Mm-hmm.
and terrible progress rates. They don't integrate well with the school district. Money all goes to out-of-state
Mm-hmm.
for-profit corporations. And they just don't care about kids the way that your school districts do. So I've been, you are what you eat, and the money's coming in from those corporations to promote that thing. But I'm saying, look, if you have an online option in your district, why do you need the public to pay for someone to go to attend an out-of-state
Mm-hmm.
online for-profit corporation? So I really want to keep that money in our schools so that we can get people back to school as quickly as possible, as quickly as it's safe.
Yeah, no, and we totally, both Paige and I are seeing this with our own kids that, virtual learning, it comes with its own disparities. It comes with its own challenges. And, I don't have the patience. I'm not a teacher myself. So when I was there the first week trying to navigate virtual learning, and it's so hard when you're teaching your own child than if it was someone else. Because I even tried this with one of my friend's kids. It's like, why is it so easier to help her than it is my own kids? And as parents, we're seeing this, the level of stress and anxiety that comes with that, because we want our kids to be successful. But yet, if you don't know how to navigate the computer and you have to be there to help your children, or if it's in one language and you speak a different language, I mean, there's so many barriers right now that I'm seeing that so many of our families need, help and resources. And then if you add on top of that, your child has special needs. Okay, and if, like, for instance, my son, he's in the spectrum, so he has an autism spectrum, so there's certain things he does that I had to make sure the teacher knew, if there was something going on online, or if he needs a break. It's like, it's so different to navigate it, and it's frustrating. And there's those days where you probably don't see me at all because I'm dealing with my kids, and it was one of those times. But just I feel like even now, being home and trying to look for a job and running a campaign and doing virtual learning, the level of stress, it's like, it's also, in a way, it affects families and mental health. And that is why it's so important to take a mental health day. I had to do that last week. I had to just disconnect myself with everything. And as parents, we are seeing that, and we really are hurting. That's why after this, we need to have programs out there that would help parents how to deal with the stress, mental health, making sure there's more resources available for them, and how to help themselves. Because when you're in a plane, what do they say? You got to put the mask first and then your child. So if you are not well, how are you going to help your kid? So I think that's really important for me that I'm seeing. And that, again, is childcare. We're partnering up with organizations here in Albany, but if those organizations don't have the tools and resources they need to help teach our children, we got to look into that and invest in that, ensuring that they're there to help us, but having more care. And that's one of the things that Paige was talking about, that we want to implement something that moms can go to work and not worry about where their child is going to be, because they'll be at a good place, culturally relevant.
Parents in general, yes, but yeah, it has affected moms much more than it has affected dads, and the stats are showing that. It's affected their jobs, their careers. So
yeah, and that's why many many parents are also like, if one parent is at home with the child and the other parent is working, and like my husband is working, I'm so grateful for that, because without that would have affected us really bad financially. But we're still trying to navigate that being at home with our kids, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's a snow day every day, but it's not really a fun snow day. It's like it's like we're here and we have to teach him, and it's stressful. So it's like, you know, as your kid, you always look forward to snow days. As parents, we're like, no,
I know.
no
We'd have
snow
no snow
day.
days now. We'd have no
Yeah.
snow days. I
Oh,
think that one thing I want to say is that we cannot have a one size fits all solution for this,
mhm.
and I feel like that's all we've really had so far. I see some districts starting to find other ways to move forward in like partial days of people coming in. I know that Staten is one of those where we're trying to work towards at least getting kids in small groups of no more than 10
Mm,
with masks, socially distanced for about 2 hours a day. They're doing something similar out in Talent or not Talent, Phoenix,
mm,
and over in Sweet Home. And but you can't do that in every single community. For
yeah,
example, up in Woodburn, the rate of infection since the beginning of the pandemic is per 100,000 is 4 times the state's rate per 100,000. So you can't like say, okay,
mhm,
everybody gets to reopen to these hybrid things. No, you have to look at each individual community,
yeah,
but that shouldn't hold other communities back. Like Wheeler County, for example, they are one of like 4 counties in the United States that has never had a COVID case.
Wow.
And it's in, I mean, they are a small population out there,
mhm,
but that is a county to kind of start learning from. They've had a lot of education and outreach, and they're already like planning for what do we do when the vaccine is ready, and educating their community members and things like that. But we can't have this one size fits all thing, and that not even for communities, but also for family types. So like
mhm,
me as a single mom, I have different needs, and as do other single parents that are the sole income where they have to go to work.
yeah,
Same with essential workers, where they have to go to work. There is no other option for them. And so making sure that we are paying attention to these um, other types of
mhm,
families that maybe don't have, two parents in the home, where one
yeah,
might have, I don't want to say the luxury, because
yeah,
it's really not a luxury when your
Mhm.
lifestyle is two incomes. It's real
yeah,
hard to bring that down to one
mhm,
income, but where you just are really truly have no other option when you're a single parent. Like you
yeah,
have to work, or else there's no roof over your head. Is no food on the table, and then you have DHS knocking
mhm.
on your door, going, "Oh, you can't provide for your children."
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot at stake for single parents, parents of young kids, and that puts our educators at risk, because when schools reopen, even partially, we need to make sure that we're supporting these parents so that they don't feel like their only option is sending their child to school sick,
Yeah,
because then that's just going to make this pandemic
mhm,
go on longer. It's going to kill more
yeah,
people. And we know right now that there are things that we could do to prevent that. And so we
mhm,
should be working on those things, which is the point of what Miriam and I we're trying to bring forward, is similar to ADA protections for pregnancies,
mhm,
adoptions, guardianship,
Mhm.
extending that in a case of an
yeah,
emergency, where an emergency has been declared, that you also have another type of protection that comes from an emergency fund that doesn't come off of the backs of businesses.
mhm,
It's something that we save up for. And we can then draw from that to help out these parents when we're telling them, sorry, you have to stay home.
yeah,
Yeah.
You have to keep your kids home, because FMLA only covers 12 weeks.
yep, yeah,
School's longer.
no, it's, yeah, no, and I think that's really, and I totally had something I was gonna say, and now it went away. You were gonna say something, Marty. Maybe we'll come back.
That's fine. That's fine. No,
Yeah,
it's, I mean, I think we need to focus on our communities and the people in them.
mhm,
That's my takeaway on all this. And one of the things we're really working on is universal childcare and preschool. And
yes,
it's
yes,
it's funny because people think of the military as a conservative institution, but when you look at their childcare programs, They have their child development centers on every base. They are open to
Wow.
everybody. They're subsidized by income. They teachers are well trained, and the hours are extended because
Yep.
that's the population you need to serve, right? The parents are serving in the military, and then they also have a great home-based system where if you want to start a child care in your home because you're a military spouse or whatever, and you want to have that extra income or that's your passion, then they have a system that actually facilitates that. It's not there to like gotcha and keep you from running a small business. They're there to help you run it effectively and safely for kids. And so it's a great system, and I'd love to see it copied here.
Yes.
So that's kind of my view on that topic. You want to? Should we chat a little? We're coming up on the hour here.
Yeah, we are. I know, right? It's like your time goes by when you're having fun.
Right.
And so I think just to say a little bit on the childcare real quick, if I can add is, it's so important that if you are gathering and for instance, Greater Albany Public Schools has closed all because there was an outbreak. So if you are doing an event or gathering multiple people more than what the state says, think that you're putting other people in danger. So the way I'm looking at this, how people are being infected, they had to close those programs that were available for children that were going to the schools that were in special needs and needed that in-person instruction. Guess what? Because of that, those services are no longer available for the child. So it impacts the whole community. And so that's why we need to be mindful that if we are going to gather, that we wear a mask and to do our social distancing. But really, this is what happens. You are impacting the whole community when you don't listen to, the scientists, the doctors, the nurses, when they're like, oh, you have to wear a mask. Yes, you want to have a birthday, but guess what? Right now, maybe, we can do something else.
Tell me about it. My daughter's birthday is in a week.
Oh, hey, my daughter's on November 17th.
With like 10 people. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not happening.
Yeah. So you got to put your foot down.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a question.
Yeah.
We did get a question in the chat about school construction, and that's one that really does impact rural communities.
Yes.
And so I want to cover it.
Please.
The question was about Lebanon, and as they build more housing, how are they going to build more schools? School construction is a real problem. I have the Central Lynn School District in my district. They've had 2 bonds fail to build the schools they need. And so I was able to get them some money for a middle school building that they're building right now. But the problem is that when we passed Measure 5, we said that school construction was primarily going to be a local responsibility. And the only tool that school districts have to do it, they're not general taxation authorities. They just have the ability to do bonds. And so if you have a rural community where property taxes are a big deal for them, a lot of people on fixed incomes or low income, you're asking them to choose between building a new school for their kids or putting food on the table for their kids. And we just need a better way of doing that, of allowing more different ways, one, having the state help out more in low income communities, but also just giving the school districts more tools to raise the revenue in a way that's appropriate for their community. You shouldn't have to rely on the legislature to come in and earmark something. The money should be there already.
Yes.
So yeah, the unfortunately the short answer is yes, they'll build new schools, but they'll have to ask the voters to pay more in property taxes for it, instead of having a more progressive approach in terms of income tax surcharge or something like that. Business tax, whatever, however you want to do it. I'm not going to tell a community how to do it, but it seems wrong. We only have one way of doing it.
I've always found it just so interesting to learn how our systems work and how much we don't plan for the future, like how our systems are built so that you almost can't plan for the future. And that's just so silly to me, because I mean, as people that, all of us have to budget in our households, and we have to plan for these things that come up in the future and save, and why we don't do that as a state, I don't understand.
No, I mean, and that's why it was so important, like the passing of the Student Success Act, that was bringing in money for school districts to have to give equitable education. And again, that is something that impacts and helps our communities, our public schools. And I'm saying public schools because that's where the money is going. And also depending on the, SIA or SSA, I mean, there's different programs that you can be used for different organizations. So it's really important that we keep, the people in mind, because the majority of us rely on public education, and we need to make sure that we're back on top when it comes to education for our children, because if we're compared to the rest of the world, we're one of the lowest. So we want to make sure that we provide the best education that we can give and provide to our children. And believe me, you're hearing it from a school board member. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. All right. You're hearing it from me.
I know. I look to you so much for information. You and my sister, she's a special education teacher up in Woodburn. And I look to the both of you guys so much for information on, what it's like in our school system outside of what I know as a parent, and also a lot of other places, but you're like my first go-tos where I'm like, hey, I have a question.
Yeah. Oh, and I gotta say, I don't know everything, that I'm just a brand new school board member. I was elected last year, but I go to like all of their trainings and everything because I want to learn how to be a better school board, member, and how I can represent. So I love learning. And so that's why if you see me geek out, is because I did so much reading about it. And I was like, oh my God, I can talk to you about it. So yeah, that's why I was like, if you see me geeking out.
We do have another question. It says, how do people in your districts who cannot vote still support the candidates?
Ooh, yes. Marty, go first. Go first, Marty. How can they support you?
Now it's all about get out the vote, and it's get out the vote for everyone. So, the county, every campaign, the counties, we're all doing get out the vote. We all share data.
What does get out the vote mean for people that don't know the GOTV lingo?
GOTV. So it is basically calling people and reminding them to vote. And once they do, we do check them off on the computer, and that means hopefully in a day or two they'll stop getting those calls, because occasionally people do
calling me.
But it was even before I ran, before I got less shy, and I really didn't want to do phone banking and things like that. Even I would do GOTV, because calling people who have already said they support your values, and you're asking them to do something that they've already said they want to do, which is vote. And now it doesn't even cost them a stamp. They can just return the ballot. So
it's a
you can contact your county party, you can contact your favorite candidate. We all do phone banks. You can contact Peter DeFazio's office.
Yes.
I think, I don't remember who's got the northern part of your district, Paige, but there's everybody's doing GOTV, and there you go. And that's
lincodems.org. I think they have phone banks for all three of us set up, right? Where you can just sign up. For me, I have mine open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can go on and do phone banking or text banking. It doesn't matter. I've got a script for both, where my main goal is just literally get people to vote. Whether if you want to mention my campaign, that's great. But if you're like, I absolutely do not want to mention a campaign, I don't care. I just want people to vote. Just get your vote in. But also social media help with liking posts, commenting, even just a heart or a cool, like a sticker. It doesn't matter what you do, sharing it, all of those things, making sure that you're liking the page versus just following it. Those are the little things that make a huge difference to the algorithms that get our message then spread further. And if you have been a donor, this stretches your dollars further. So the more that you engage in our posts, the more that you share, the more you like them, the further your dollars are going.
Yes. And if it's by giving a contribution or a donation to one of us or to any candidate that, that you do feel like your values align, please, I know at the Linn County Dems office, which is right across from Les Schwab in Albany, we actually made these shirts, that says #Blue Wave. And on the back, guess what? Dream team. Right here. Look at all the awesomeness. Okay. I
Oh, even
mean,
Farmer
there's
Jim's on
yeah,
there. Woo!
Farmer
Nice.
Jim is in
Alright.
here. Look at that. So we made these, and they're only $20. And of course, they're gonna go to, a little portion goes to all of the candidates they have endorsed. But that's one way that you can come out and support us. Stop by the office, with our social distancing, wearing your mask. I'm there most of the days. I wasn't there today because I was preparing for this.
You can also sign
But
wave.
yes, sine
Sine
wave.
wave,
It's so
yeah.
much
Yeah,
fun.
you don't have to be able to vote to
Yes.
sign wave. So if we're
Mhm.
talking about people that are
Yes.
unable to vote, like they're too
Mhm.
young to vote, or they just are not eligible to vote,
Mhm.
or if you can vote, you can come sign
Yes.
wave too.
Yeah, so anything like that, we have buttons you can also get there. I mean, we'll gear you up, okay? We'll
Yeah.
dam you up. Dam,
Just
get
reach
it?
out. Reach out. We'll get you set up.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hosting us,
Yes,
Miriam. This has
thank
been really great.
you. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, everyone. And if
Appreciate
we'll
it.
put in your links in the chat so people can find out more
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Reach out.
All right.
so much
Thank
for
you
inviting
so
me.
Bye.
much.
Thanks.
Good night. Buenas
All right.
noches.
Buenas noches.